Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Unfiltered Impact Discussions. If this is your first time tuning in, I am Eneme Gift, aka the Community Girl, and this is a space where we talk about real, raw, unfiltered, and impactful issues. No sugarcoating, no holding back. This is a podcast where we tackle real issues affecting our communities, challenge harmful norms, and work towards meaningful change. Today, I would like us to dive into a very serious and deeply important topic, often misunderstood: sexual violence. Now, I know this isn't the easiest conversations to have, but that is exactly why we need to have it. I am currently on a campaign against sexual violence, and I feel a strong responsibility to use this platform to shed light on the issue, educate, and offer solutions. Because the truth is, too many people suffer in silence, and it is time to change that. So grab a seat, take a deep breath, and let's get into it. Sexual violence is a global issue, yet many people still do not fully understand what it includes, how it happens, or the long-term impact it has on survivors. So today, we are going to break it down. No fluff, no sugarcoating, just raw and unfiltered truth. Now, what exactly is sexual violence? Let us start with the basics. When people hear the term sexual violence, they often think of rape, which is a serious and devastating crime. But it is actually much broader than that. Yes, sexual violence is actually much broader than rape. Sexual violence includes 1. Sexual harassment. With sexual harassment, we are talking about unwanted comments, unwanted advances, or gestures. All of those inappropriate remarks that people throw at you, they all count. Unwanted comments like, "Hey, beautiful, you look sexy today." Unwanted advances like maybe blinking eyes with you, maybe touching you anyhow. All of those things count. They are all part of sexual violence. Another form of sexual violence is coercion and manipulation. You keep on pressuring someone into a sexual act they do not want. You manipulate somebody to come probably collect money in your room, or maybe you say, before I give you this amount of money, you have to do this. Manipulation. You coerce, you want to blackmail that person into doing something that they do not want. That is sexual violence. You're pressuring someone into a sexual act. You want that person to have a sexual act with you out of his or her own will. That is sexual violence. Now, another form of sexual violence is child sexual abuse. This is a serious violation that affects millions of children worldwide. I mean, under your roof as a parent, your child can be going through sexual abuse. Your elder brother can be sexually abusing your child under your roof. So I went to a church today for the campaign I'm carrying out, and the church is actually following up a rape case of a 4-year-old boy who was raped by a community member. Can you imagine? A 4-year-old boy, a child, and the family of the child is not even well to do. I mean, the mother is not even well to do, the grandmother is not well to do. They are vulnerable. Can you imagine a big man taking advantage of a 4-year-old? Who does that? Are you cursed? Now, we have another form, which is non-consensual sharing of explicit images. This one usually happens digitally. You just sit and someone sends you a nude. All of those porn sites. This is also known as digital sexual violence. It happens in this our generation a lot. Okay, so those are the forms of sexual violence that I want to talk to us today about. I'm going to reiterate: sexual harassment, coercion and manipulation, child sexual abuse, non-consensual sharing of explicit images. So this is just to tell you that sexual violence, when you hear about sexual violence, it is not all about rape itself. Now, the one thing that is common amongst all of these forms of sexual violence: lack of consent. If someone does not or cannot give you a clear and enthusiastic, a capital big YES, it is not consent. Do not take advantage of that person. A yes, I will do it should be clear, enthusiastic. I mean, and it should come with happiness, not okay, I will do it. Okay, let's just do it. Okay. Oh no. That is not consent. That is not consent. If you do such a thing, you'll be carrying out sexual violence on that individual. So why is sexual violence so common? Why is sexual violence so common in our communities? Why is sexual violence so common in our schools, in our churches, in our quarters, and all the like? Why? You might be asking yourself, why does this happen so much? Well, it is a mix of power, control, and societal norms that have excused or ignored abuse for too long. One of the reasons why sexual violence is so common in our societies today is the victim blaming culture. What was she wearing? Why was he or she out at that time? This kind of thinking shifts responsibility from the abuser to the survivor. You keep blaming that victim. When somebody comes to you and say, I was sexually abused, I was sexually assaulted, and the first thing is, what did you go to do there? What were you wearing? Why were you passing there? What, why, this, where, how, this? You are asking questions that can make the survivor to keep more information to him or herself, which is not good. Instead for you to hurriedly look for the abuser, you are blaming the victim. We should stop all of this victim blaming culture. When abusers know that the victim or the survivor will be blamed, of course they will continue doing it because they know that the blame will go back to the survivor. Let us stop the victim blaming culture. It promotes sexual violence in our communities. Another reason why sexual violence is so common is the silence and stigma. Many victims don't report because they fear being judged, shamed, or not believed. You will prefer to keep silent if you go and tell somebody and the person do not believe you, or the person starts asking you some kind of questions. Somebody will keep silent if they know that after saying that thing, they'll keep reminding him or her about that thing. You see that girl way, you see that boy way, you see that girl way, you see that boy way. All of those things promote sexual violence. They make the survivors to keep still, to be quiet, to take it lightly, which is not good. The silence and the stigma that is attached to it, we have to kill it. Survivors need to speak up. Survivors need to seek justice. Okay. Another reason why violence is so common is a lack of accountability. We have weak laws, poor enforcement, and community indifferences. All of these factors, the weak laws, the poor enforcement, and the community indifferences, allow abusers to walk free while survivors struggle to heal. Imagine a survivor going through post-traumatic disorder, going through hell, talking to herself, to him or herself, how he or she cannot do it, he or she cannot do this, he or she cannot survive again, while the abuser is out there living his or her life, living his life, going places, making his money, while some of the survivors are there. Some will even grow up and change the way they dress. They start hating the opposite sex. Some will not even want to get married. Some will not even want to give birth to a child. Why the abuser is out there, the perpetrator is out there living his life free. This lack of accountability promotes sexual violence. Rapists, since they know that there is no accountability, there is no law, there is the law enforcement is poor, and things that people will say, they will keep on doing it. After all, nothing will happen to them. We have to take charge of our lives. We have to do things differently. Okay, now I would like us to talk about the impact of sexual violence on individuals and in the community, of course. Survivors of sexual violence often deal with lifelong consequences. Keyword, lifelong consequences, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. And one of the lifelong consequences is post-traumatic disorder, depression, and anxiety. These are very common, and it makes daily lives for these survivors a struggle. It makes life difficult for them. Imagine you entering a scene every day where an act was carried out. You start having a flashback. You start thinking about that thing. You become depressed. This is a lifelong consequences. And if the survivor does not seek help from a counselor, it will go on and on till when they leave this earth. So as a survivor, please seek help. Seek help from people you trust. Speak out. Do not let that person go scot free. Do not let that person walk around free when you yourself you are going through a lot. Do not. Another lifelong consequence is shame and self-blame. They keep on blaming themselves. Many survivors internalize the abuse, thinking they could have prevented it. They skip out. If I knew, I wouldn't have gone there. If I knew, I wouldn't have worn that dress. If I knew, I would have screamed. If I knew, if I knew, if I knew. They shame and self-blame. Please, as a survivor, do not blame yourself. It is never your fault. It has never and it will never be your fault. It will never be your fault. There is no excuse for sexual violence. There is no excuse for rape. Another lifelong consequence is trust issues and relationship struggles. The trauma can affect how survivors connect with others, making intimacy or friendships very difficult. I earlier said getting to like the opposite sex might become difficult. Getting to even settle down in marriage would be difficult for the survivors because of what they have experienced. Some people will just grow up and say they just want to have their child. They don't even want to live in their house with a man. This is very common with young ladies, with girls who have gone through sexual violence. They don't want to live in a house with a man anymore. They do not even want. In fact, they change. They become tomboys. Their dressings, their hairstyles, everything. They just want to change because they do not want to have anything to do with the opposite sex. And do you know the reality of all of this? Sexual violence does not just hurt individuals. It tears apart families, relationships, and the entire community. Imagine having that one person in your family who has gone through sexual violence and he or she wants to start dissociating his or herself from the family, always wanting to be this different, always wanting to do his or her things, always wanting to be alone because he or she feels like, no, I don't need to associate myself. I am dirty. I am this. I have done this. I have done that. It tears apart families. So what can we do? What can you do? What can I do? What can the community do about this act? So we know the problem. Now, what can we actually do about it? I have 3 steps we all can take to handle sexual violence or to get ourselves involved in this act, to make sure that this act does not continue in the community. Educate yourself and others. They say knowledge is power. The more we understand sexual violence, the better we can prevent it. The more you understand that if somebody touches you inappropriately, the person has violated you sexually. If you're passing and somebody touches your buttocks, somebody touches your breast, it is sexual violence. Have the knowledge, educate yourself and tell another person. Educate yourself that if it happens, I am going straight to the hospital first. I'll go to the police station, I'll report to an NGO. Tell other people they should stand up for themselves. They should speak up when it happens. Educate yourself and others. Knowledge is power. Read about all of these things. What can you do? What does the law say about those who sexually violate others? And I tell you, you will have that strength, you will have that courage to be able to speak up. The second thing we can do is to speak up. Dear survivors, speak up. Do not hide it. If you hear an inappropriate joke or witness harassment, call it out. Silence enables abuse. If you keep silent, the abusers will go free. If you keep silent, it enables the abuse to continue more. There is nothing like a joke. Why are you calling me sexy? If I dress, is it your dressing? Hey, sexy, you look. All of those things, curb them, stop them when it starts. Then the third thing is for you to support survivors. Listen to them, believe them, and encourage them to seek help. When they come to you and tell you, the response you will give to them, it matters a lot. How you react to what they tell you, it will determine whether they can continue with it or they should stop with it. They should stop talking about it. Do not judge them. Do not blame them for it. Support them physically, emotionally, spiritually. I was saying in the church yesterday where I went for campaign that the church should be a safe space. It should be an embodiment of people who can comfort these kind of people, who can comfort survivors, and not a place for blaming. Please support them. Do not judge. Listen to them. Okay. I hope we have learned something, or I hope we are learning something. Sexual violence is not just a woman's issue. Even men are being raped. Sexual violence is a human rights issue that affects everyone. It can be you, it can be me, it can be your relative, as well as it can be my relative. And so ending it requires all of us. It requires the men, it requires the women, it requires the youth, parents, teachers, faith leaders, everyone to take a stand against it. If this episode resonated with you, I would like you to share it, start conversations, and let's build a movement that fights for justice and safety for all. Thank you for listening to Unfiltered Impact Discussions. Please don't forget to subscribe. Follow me on TikTok as a community girl. Subscribe to my YouTube channel as a community girl. Follow me on other social media platforms and join the conversation using hashtag break the silence, hashtag voices for change, hashtag end sexual violence, hashtag the community girl. I will see you in the next episode where we will talk about why survivors struggle to speak up and how we can create safe spaces for them to share their stories. Stay safe, stay aware, and keep pushing for change.